Alright, I'll stop faking it. I admit, I will never be able to play the piano as well as Elio in this movie. What is up, everybody? Random Man here, bringing you my review for Call Me By Your Name. Based on the book of the same name, written by Andre Aciman, the film's plot basically follows Elio, played by Timothée Chalamet, a 17-year-old boy living somewhere in northern Italy during the summer of 1983, when an American assistant named Oliver, played by Armie Hammer, comes to stay with Elio and his family to help out Elio's father, played by Michael Stuhlbarg, who is a college professor during the course of that summer. Sooner than later, though, Elio and Oliver start a bond together and form a relationship. Now, this is yet another late 2017 release that has gotten an expanded nationwide release as of late, and I've been looking forward to seeing for almost a year now. The first time I heard about this film was about a year ago during the 2017 Sundance Film Festival, and hey, coincidentally, this year's Sundance Film Festival is happening right now, and Call Me By Your Name was among one of the most talked about and praised movies of last year's Sundance Film Festival and ended up being held as one of the best movies of 2017. And now I've finally gotten the chance to see this film, as from the cast, the look of this film, and the story that it was trying to tell, it had me hooked. From the onset with the performances, I can say that everyone acting-wise does a tremendous job. Starting out with Timothée Chalamet as young Elio, who gives a naturally subtle performance in this film. This isn't a super showy role for this young actor, but the way he shows off the intricacies within his facial expressions, the way he moves his body, and just goes about his daily business in this film speaks wonders to how this character would grow throughout the movie, and seeing him slowly discover his identity that is growing within his own self, but also showing off the kinetic chemistry that he has with Oliver, played by Armie Hammer. And Armie Hammer is great in this film. This is one of the best performances I've ever seen from him, and the chemistry, again, that he does have between himself and Chalamet is kinetically done. The other standout of this film is Michael Stuhlbarg in an excellent supporting role as Elio's dad, and he was probably my favorite character throughout the film because I loved the implementation of how he was used and interjected to the film's narrative. And yes, everyone has been talking about this with his character, but Stuhlbarg delivers such a gripping and emotionally filled monologue towards the end of the movie with Elio. And it's just one of those moments that really struck a chord with me, and it's one of the best speeches, monologues, talks, what have you, that I've seen in a movie recently. Once again, everyone in this film acting-wise does a tremendous job. The screenplay in this film, written by James Ivory, who is also one of the flick's producers, sets up the movie to have us notice a bunch of details that are given early on with the opening title sequence, which really had me engaged with the film, but also with what goes down within the background of the film once these characters start interacting and then have the film transpire throughout the rest of the running time. Yes, this movie at its core is a romance between two young guys during a summer that they are spending together, but what the movie does, and I can praise the script for, is giving us a lot of realistic nature with the film. As I said, I think the performances are naturally acted, but also with the dialogue, how the movie gives us interactions that feel like we are witnessing what could possibly happen in real life, but also with the way the movie also does put in those details that the director, Luca Guadagnino, wants us to look out for. And I thought his direction here was so gently handled. Now, the romance in this film doesn't happen out of nowhere. Nuh-uh. It's clear from the meticulous pace that this movie carries throughout its running time that we are supposed to get absorbed into Elio and Oliver, and after a while, I really did care for the romance that blossomed between these two. I would liken the strengths that this movie does have with other similarly themed LGBTQ plus films such as Todd Haynes' Carol and Barry Jenkins' Moonlight, which last year deservingly won the Best Picture Oscar. And all of these movies, Call Me By Your Name, Carol, and Moonlight, had us notice finer details and points within how these characters interacted with one another. Technically speaking, Call Me By Your Name is a gorgeously constructed film. For the smaller budget that this movie had, it really used its resources to its fullest potential, as this is a beautiful looking and sounding film. The lush cinematography with these really stunning locations where these characters interact and stay at really made me want to spend a summer somewhere in northern Italy where this movie takes place. And then with how the movie sounds, the music by Suf J. Stevens, I loved. It is so soothing and alluring to get me more wrapped up into what was going on with the film. And it warmed me up inside at certain moments when his music did show up. This movie runs at about 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I thought it was mostly well timed because I was so into what this movie had to offer. But I can definitely see why people would have a problem with that, as it does tend to meander at points and really not have much conflict other than the identity crisis that Elio was forming within himself, and then the relationships he has between other characters, not just Oliver. But the way the movie is even presented from the start has us expect this movie to be slow, gradual, aged like a fine wine. That being said, though, I do admit that this movie ran a little long in that the pacing could have been tightened up more, or a few minutes could have been shaved off from its running time. I coincidentally have reviewed 3 other movies previously, which are also 2017 releases, where I talked a bit about their pacing and running times. Yet, with Call Me By Your Name in particular, the issue that some people have with this movie running too long, I do see, but it was never too detrimental to the movie in how it ran for me. There are other issues that people I know have had with this film and will have in the future, and it involves what this movie is trying to tell with its story. Elio and Oliver have a considerable age difference between the two. Elio is 17 again, and Oliver looks to be about in his mid-20s, and people have cited that as a problem. Well, I would say that decades and decades ago, there have been romance movies made where the two leads have larger age differences between themselves. Like, my favorite actress, Audrey Hepburn, has been in movies with much older leading men, such as Charade and My Fair Lady. So when it comes to a gay couple here in a movie that was released in 2017, people suddenly have a problem with that. But it also has to do with some people having a problem with this movie being a gay romance, which in itself is such an asshole thing to say. I personally identify as straight, and I was able to feel the romance between Elio and Oliver that was being displayed on screen. And of course, there are just other people out there who are going to say this movie's being praised for being a specifically handled gay romance film, which I don't see as the only merit to this film, as I think in other ways this movie was able to accomplish something that showed off the beauty between a romance between two people, no matter who they are, but also just showing off a story that is visual in a lot of senses and having us see a bunch of finer points that are expressed in not the most obvious of ways, and that is what got me into this movie in the first place. Even with me never having read the book that this movie is based on, I still got so involved with seeing what transpired throughout this film, in it being so well acted, well written, well directed, technically beautiful in how it looks and sounds, And I surely can see this movie getting quite a few Oscar nominations come this awards season. It's already been buzzing so much prior to now, but I can see a lot of the praise that this movie does carry. This is an effectively bittersweet film that did get to me at certain moments, and while its slow pacing may be a turnoff for some, for everyone else open-minded going into what this movie may do for you, this is a well-made movie that I really enjoyed. I definitely recommend Call Me By Your Name. My final verdict for Call Me By Your Name is 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Call Me By Your Name. Social media links in the description. Subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.